Right. Before we get too far into this introduction, I feel I should clarify something for those in the comments. I'm not Irish. Sometimes I wish I was, but alas, I'm not. My voice is the product of being born on one side of the planet, before spending nearly 20 years on the other side of the planet, and then trying desperately to drag itself back home while slowly succumbing to inevitability and change and picking up a few weird aliens on the way. Or is that Voyager? That might be Voyager. Anyway, that's convenient because Voyager is kind of what we're talking about today. Stranded in the Delta Quadrant with a motley crew of alien teens and a hologram of a Trek legend from Voyager. But what else might we expect of the USS Protostar, the hero ship for the upcoming Star Trek Prodigy animated series? Welcome to Trek Central, lords, ladies, and sovereigns. I'm Ensign Adam, and today we are indeed talking about the unsung superstar of Star Trek Prodigy, the USS Protostar. We just got the trailer for Star Trek Prodigy, the latest Star Trek animated show coming to us in fall 2021 on Paramount Plus. With a new Trek show, that does mean we get a brand new Star Trek Starship. So let's break it down, talk about its design, as well as postulate some theories about how it ended up defunct and abandoned in the Delta Quadrant. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media for daily updates on the Star Trek universe. First off, yes, you heard me right, our hero ship begins not with a commissioning ceremony, an epic space battle, or a lovingly filmed hour-long compilation of establishing shots, but duffed and dead, stranded in the Delta Quadrant with a motley crew of alien teens and a hologram of a Trek legend. The question of how this happened is a conundrum in itself, but what do we know about the ship's history before it met this sad, lonely fate? Well, the USS Protostar NX-76884 is a Starfleet ship that is found abandoned on what appears to be a dilithium mining prison asteroid called Tars Lamora in the year 2383 in the Delta Quadrant by a group of teens. Now, this would be 4 years after the return of the USS Voyager to the Alpha Quadrant in the year 2379. The ship has the inclusion of an emergency training hologram, modeled after the great Catherine Janeway, possibly generated from the personal logs of Janeway during her captaincy of the USS Voyager. We know from interviews with the creatives of the show that the ship was launched after the return of the Voyager, so that makes sense. The Protostar has a default Starfleet design to it. The saucer section, the twin nacelles attached to the secondary hull. The saucer is elongated, similar to the Prometheus and Sovereign class of starships, and the design of the bridge, though, is unique for the Protostar, with a clear canopy, allowing for a larger degree of visibility while on the bridge, but also presenting a larger target. The bridge itself is also unique, with a very open design with a single captain's chair and 2 consoles at the front and 2 at the aft. The large open view screen presumably has a computerized component to it, similar to ships such as the USS Zheng-He and the La Sirena. The bridge shares a remarkable similarity to the Odyssey-class bridge from Star Trek Online, which also includes their holographic consoles, as the LCARS panels on the Protostar seem to slightly protrude from the consoles, as a possible precursor to the holographic 3D displays seen in the year 2399 in Star Trek Picard. The bridge's view screen canopy can be dimmed to not let light through, and open when the ship is active, as well as lights appearing around the rim of the bridge when active. The secondary hull of the ship flows from its saucer, and from the rear you can see where the third nacelle comes out, as it's partially visible when not extended. The deflector of the ship is in its usual position, beneath the saucer of the ship. However, instead of attached to the forward-facing section of the secondary hull, it's literally beneath the saucer. This is also pretty unique, much thinner than many deflectors we see in Star Trek ships on the regular. The size of the Protostar is also interesting to note. It is not very big, only being a couple of decks tall. The underside of the saucer, where the deflector would normally sit, has a cargo door, and presumably the main egress of the ship. The cargo ramp allows for the Prodigy to deploy buggies of a new design, which, yes, obviously, we have to talk about those. Starfleet has a precedent for ground vehicles, as anybody paying attention to Star Trek Nemesis and Lower Decks will have noticed heading into the late 24th century. The buggies employed by the Protostar are remarkably different in design, however, to the Argo-type buggies that we've already seen. These Protostar buggies have 6 very wide wheels, presumably for all-terrain travel, They have 4 wheels at the back of the buggy and 2 protruding from the front. The wheels are connected to the main hull by some sort of suspension, and apparently don't need a central axle. The cockpit of the buggy is connected to the rear, near the 2 sets of the back wheels, and on top of the main hull. The cockpit also seems to have its own suspension on top of that, by the wheels, presumably to mitigate shocks from all-terrain travel. It also has 2 seats, with space behind, possibly for storage. There doesn't seem to be any obvious controls for the vehicle, like a steering wheel or a joystick or whatever, but these could appear when the vehicle is active, and could also be holographic in nature, similar to the consoles of the Protostar itself. There doesn't seem to be any windows to protect the driver, with it being pretty open. Force fields, perhaps, could be utilized here instead of transparent aluminium, but we don't really know if this is the case. The only buggy we see in this trailer is labeled 07, which could suggest there were more buggies, or the Protostar will have similar buggy issues compared to the Voyager and its limitless shuttle situation. Though, talking about replicating shuttles, we could be seeing an industrial replicator in use on the Protostar, as in the trailer we see Ruk-Tak and Gwyn fighting in an area with robotic arms, creating something out of strands of light, so the ship might have the resources to actually create big equipment when needed, such as the buggies. The Protostar may also have one small one-man shuttle, as we see an image of Murph in what looks to be a broken shuttle. It definitely isn't a broken buggy, as the buggies have 2 brown chairs compared to this vehicle, which only has 1 grey chair with a Starfleet Delta on it. It's a new variant, by the way, that we haven't seen before. Personally, from what little we can see, its main hull looks quite similar to the angular look of the Yellowstone-class shuttle, as seen in Star Trek Online and, of course, Voyager. Going back to the Protostar, the ship has an NX registry instead of the usual NCC. This, of course, denotes that it is a prototype, just like the Excelsior, the Defiant, the Prometheus, and most recently the Osler, the Division 14 starship seen in Star Trek Lower Decks. Being a prototype and, of course, bearing that precious NX registry, that means it is presumably unique, and there has to be a reason for being lost in the Delta Quadrant. Could this reason be related to the ship having a unique method of propulsion, or some other weird technology on board? Of course, we have theories on the matter. In the opening title credits for Star Trek Prodigy, which were revealed recently, the Protostar can be seen activating its 3rd nacelle, and then reaching incredible speeds before disappearing instantaneously in what looks like a wormhole of sorts. One possible method of propulsion that could also explain the name of the ship, Protostar, and the seemingly instantaneous method of travel it uses, is a theory proposed by Ensign Harry Kim. In that theory, he posited that the detonation of a Type 6 Protostar could create a wormhole from the Delta Quadrant to the Alpha Quadrant. Perhaps the Protostar is actually able to simulate this interaction and then emulate a Type 6 Protostar detonation and create an actual wormhole. It's feasible that this could have been experimented with and have accidentally resulted in the Protostar being lost in that wormhole and ending up dumped on a mining planet in the Delta Quadrant. Whether there are crew on board or this experiment was automated and overseen by the Janeway hologram is something that we will presumably, I hope, find out on the show. There are other theories out there, of course, but as an ensign, I am given to believe my fellow ensign. The most likely theory from the information we have is, of course, the Protostar theory. But that's all we have so far to break down about this interesting new ship from Prodigy itself. What did you think of it? And what did you think about the buggy? I kind of want one. Let us know in the comments below. And also, how you think this experimental ship came to be in the Delta Quadrant. I suppose I could listen to somebody else's ideas for a change. I mean, why not? I've tried every other way to get promoted I can think of. If you want to keep up to date with all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then of course, make sure you remember to hit the subscribe button and never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join our community Discord server. For now, my friends, I've been Ensign Adam. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.